It started with rich fertile ground and big ambition. A sweeping stretch of land with promise. We came not to conquer, but to carve a rhythm, to tame the drought, to build a network of life. Towers went up, channels were carved, steel gates whispered to soil-bound seasons, and water moved not just with force, but with purpose. A promise kept, one drop at a time, for families, fields and futures waiting to grow. The winds of change blew as the seasons slowly turned, and local farmers took control, making destiny their own.
Privatisation was born out of irrigator frustration. We could see that the irrigation scheme that was started in the 1930s was deteriorating. We had the desire to get involved in the management of the scheme. Well, then they said, well, maybe you better take it over. Eventually that came to a vote and it was carried. But you know, there were different views around the district, no doubt.
Well, there was a big public meeting in Deniliquin, I do remember, and there were a couple of opponents got up and spoke, and people in favour got up and spoke. And what the minister had advised us, or advised Kelvin and the board, was that he wanted to know that there was overwhelming support for the initiative. And it was very clear at that meeting, which was very well attended, like maybe there were 300 or 400 irrigators there, that the irrigation community was ready for the change.
All the channel system was regulated by hand, all by channel attendants, we called them, the guys that were reach down with a bar and a hook and pull out these boards.
Some of the work was verging on the heroic. So if you get a heavy rainfall event in springtime, in the middle of the night, people would tear out in utes and pull 8 foot or 2.4 metre long red gum drop bars out of the Mulwala Canal, which was a combination of dangerous, difficult and clumsy.
There was better ways to do it, you know.
Efficiency and innovation moved to the fore. Smarter, faster, cleaner. What once was done by hand, now moved by modern ingenuity.
The key differences back then were that there was over 100 staff in that area, and we were all manual water delivery services, so at least 30 staff per day working in the field, and that was just to deliver water services, not maintenance services. Today, like for like, that's 3 people on any given day delivering those same services. We saw an opportunity where we may be able to automate and remotely control some of our supply channel system. So during 2011, we did what we called the Early Works program, which was a precursor to all of the federal government pilot programs. And from there, we largely adopted our trial, which was the standard level of service. And we rolled that out to the entire network. So that was a $200 million program for about 5 years. We then started the journey through PIOP 3 funding, which was a further $50 million to finish the largest structures in our network. And following completion of that program in 2019, we had end-to-end connectivity from our offtake all the way through to on-farm. Since then, we've managed to transition from a delivery efficiency of around 65 to 75% through to results more recently of 93 and 95%, which is an exceptional result.
In every upgrade, a lesson. In every setback, a reason. We shape precision from gravity, sculpting crucial sustainability. Because improvement isn't a goal, it's a cycle. And with the seasons, we grow and evolve.
Is when we created the company, a condition was we created an environmental overlay. That is, we improved our environmental performance in terms of managing water better, looking after the natural environment, and as a result, the farmers entered effectively through Murray Irrigation into a contract with government to deliver the land and water management plans. And that was about farm planning, revegetation of and protection of wetlands, stopping tipping drainage water which had chemicals in it into our creeks and rivers. And that was a suite of works that we had to embrace and it was better done through an independent vehicle than by government. And I think the Land and Water Management Plan implementation was a real success for the irrigators in the region.
The Land and Water Management Plans were the cornerstone of the environmental program, but they were complemented by a range of policies the company put in place. You know, where it started and what it's achieved over that journey is really second to none. Initially, it started as a program to comply with licence conditions. It very quickly evolved into a program to achieve regional sustainability. And today we see that same program now achieving environmental outcomes at a basin-wide level.
Irrigation has delivered over 350,000 megs of environmental water onto environmental assets in its footprint. When you deliver water onto environmental assets, you certainly see a change quite quickly, and it's quite heartwarming to drive around the landscape and to see a broad landscape scale change for that benefits both the environment and agriculture as well.
Now, more than a century since the first sod of soil was turned for the Hume Dam, we don't just carry water, we carry legacy, responsibility and vision.
This family, our family's been here since 1909. I guess predominantly this was all rice country back in the day. People have gone, I could think predominantly they're using their water on winter cereals. 30 years ago we're probably at 2.5 tonne of the hectare and now they're up to 8 and 9. So certainly better flow rates and things that Murray Irrigation is now able to supply. You know, irrigated yields are equal to anywhere else in the district. Oh, I think it's spectacular. And so having a continuation in agriculture, I think it's very exciting to be able to keep the succession going.
Probably one thing I got from being away and some of the networks I've built was to have a bit of perspective outside of, you know, the Denny region, which was all we had beforehand. It probably sped the transition into cotton and, you know, irrigated cereals. Maybe there were different ways to do it than what the norm was.
Well, I've always seen, you know, that Murray Irrigation has been pivotal and will continue to be pivotal in all of our success.
The challenges grow, but so do we. Data-rich, climate-smart, rooted in community, collaboration and driven by care.
So my wife Linda and I first came here 35 years ago, so just before privatisation, and bought an irrigation farm at Oakmore. So I've seen all the changes in the last 30 years since Murray Irrigation was privatised, and 8 years ago I put my hand up to be a director to sort of give back and in regards to what Murray Irrigation has done for us. From a board point of view, I want to make sure that the infrastructure is fit for purpose for the next generation. It should be here in perpetuity.
I think the future's really optimistic in terms of evolving agriculture and water use, and what I want to do is ensure the company's set up to respond to the needs of the irrigators. Coupled with that, the work we're doing in the environment to ensure that we can deliver water for a useful purpose for the environment. Combining those two together will assist us to ensure we run an organisation that's meeting the needs of all of the stakeholders who depend on the efficient delivery of water. We understand that we need to hand this set of assets in better shape than how we found them. And I think we're working in an area and an industry that it's actually, you know, without food you don't live. So it's very easy to feel pride and a lot of satisfaction in the things that we do well.
Every road you go down you see new irrigation developments being undertaken, productive crops and pastures being grown. What this region has achieved from where it was 30 years ago is nothing short of phenomenal.
The flow of water does not stop, nor will we. Because what we move isn't just water, it's life, it's the future, it's possibility.
I suppose I reflect on the personal time it took, you know. I was in my early 40s and kids were quite young. Yeah, I'm proud. That's about the best word I'd say.